Hello everyone, my name's Pete and I play stuff that I claim I don't like because I don't trust myself. If you want to support this endeavour, then you can join this list of people who agree that I should keep playing things that I probably won't enjoy. When it comes to the Diablo formula, or isometric hack and slash games, few have managed to work it quite as successfully as Path of Exile. Whilst it's not a complete copy, the core mechanics remain very similar. At a surface level, Diablo is perfectly enjoyable. You can happily go about killing and looting as you please, and the game will nicely scale with you, providing a reasonable challenge. It's quite rare that a lack of any pre-existing knowledge will lock you out of a part of the game. If you're a die-hard fan, you can spend time learning the intricacies of each class and min-max your way into a very different experience. And this is before we've even looked at the world of Diablo speedrunning, which I'm not going to do. Path of Exile takes the enjoyability of mowing down hordes of enemies and rolls with the mind-numbing addictiveness that can come with it. But something about its formula can be a bit off-putting for new players. I'd like to take a little time to explain what I mean by that, and I mean to start from the beginning. When choosing your character, there is no description of what you're playing. There are plenty of visual cues to deliver what each character will be good at, but what isn't communicated is that your choice here matters for reasons that don't match many other games. What you're actually choosing relates to another barrier, but I don't want to skip steps. After this, you're faced with a decision that will mean nothing to you unless you've taken the time to read up on the game and what to expect. You need to pick a league, and league to me suggests competition, and I'm already uncomfortable with that thought. Once you've chosen your character, no matter who it is, you'll wake up on a beach. There'll be a weapon suitable for you lying nearby, and this gentleman will be eaten by a zombie. The controls are simple enough, but your first kill will reward you with something that is both good and not good. It's a gem, which is good. These gems are socketed into equipment to provide abilities, spells, or support effects for either of those. This is fine as a system. What's not fine is the absolute barrage of information that's attached to it. Keep in mind that this is the second item you're interacting with, the first being your weapon. This is a lot to process and there's no indication of its importance right now, so naturally you're going to spend your time reading it. This one gem gives me 100% of my physical damage converted to cold damage. Okay, that's understandable. A 25% chance to freeze enemies, I can understand that too. Every third successive strike freezes enemies as though dealing 200% more damage. As though dealing 200% more damage. Is that dealing more damage then, or does it freeze them to the equivalent of more damage? I don't understand. 0.2 meters to attack range, who's measuring that? 10% increased effect of cold ailments. And does this stack onto what I already read? 35% increased duration of cold ailments. So is that not the same as the one I just have? Is that stacking as well? Did the other one affect damage and this one just affect time? Why are they separate things? Just condense these into one line. And finally, 2 to 3 cold damage against chilled enemies. Is chilled the same as frozen, or is there another cold effect? I've taken 3 steps and killed 1 enemy, and now I'm trying to wrap my head around all this information. And you can say it doesn't matter, just equip it and play, but the only way you know that is by already having played. And that's why it's a barrier. All these gems suffer with the same text bloat, and it just gets worse while you're still learning. Filtering the useful information out of them is something you won't learn to do for many hours. And if that was the only thing you needed to get your head around, then it might be okay. But it's not. When you level up, you gain a skill point. To spend your skill point, you must go here. Okay, so this is a large skill tree, and it's one that's going to invoke one of 3 reactions. There are many individuals who will see this and get butterflies. The thought of picking your way through this and theory crafting builds is something that genuinely excites some people. Others, like myself, will simply read one node at a time, and when a skill point is available, I'll spend it and not think about the long term. Especially because the information attached to each node isn't useful until I've learned more about the game. And the third reaction is probably just to quit. Your character choice from the start serves only to determine where on this sprawling mess you start. Meaning that while all of these nodes are available to you, some will be closer or further away, meaning you're limiting your build options without knowing how progression works first. Which is fine, until you learn you could be setting yourself up for failure because you didn't read up on what's coming first. I did a bit of snooping, I read some game guides, watched a few videos, and I even spoke to some fans of the game, and I managed to determine that the recommended way to play is with a build guide. Yes, you need someone who has tried and tested all the combinations to swoop in and hold your hand through this web of shiny circles, or you will face progression walls. Whilst I haven't come across any of these myself yet, I have discovered that later down the line, not using your skill points optimally will eventually lead you down a dead end and get in the way of completing the game. This is a problem for me because the idea of putting in research before playing a game is so bizarre. I don't want to have everything spoiled and know exactly what I'm up against. This is basically recreating someone else's experience. I'd like to stress that I don't think this is necessarily bad game design, this is purely my opinion. Some of you may share it, some of you may not, but I would still insist that this is a barrier that could be removed without harming the game. First of all, my advice to anyone like me who wants to go without help for the first time around is to just go. Just pick a character you like the look of, equip all the gems you want, use the skills you like, and have the most fun you can. The game plays very nicely, and if you want to relax and kill a load of stuff, then you totally can for quite a while before you hit problems. But as a note to grinding gear games, here's a few ways you could get a few of these easily scared players eased into your game without scaring them off. And the answers, at least to me, lie in the systems you already have in place, so let me try and explain. When you're starting your adventure, you are asked to pick a league, and I don't really understand the differences, especially since there's 2 options listed as the default. But each of these has an extra option for hardcore or ruthless mode too. Hardcore means dying gets your character demoted to standard, so I guess it's trying to play a deathless run, and ruthless is an increase in difficulty that includes item scarcity. Since these modifiers exist, why not have a new player mode? In this mode you would have a simplified skill tree, or a basic leveling guide, and I think that holding someone's hand for a while would be fine, especially if they've chosen it. You could guide them to maybe level 20 or 30, at which point you can give them the full skill tree and then the choice to keep the guide or not. I think this would allow players to settle in and give them a place to exist in the game with a little more chill to it. A place where optimization isn't as important as just zoning out and having some fun. You might ask me how this differs from reading a build guide, and my answer to that would be that this is built into the game and requires no research outside of what you're already playing. I would also recommend scaling down the amount of information on gems in this mode. Just keep it to 1 or 2 effects until some levels have been gained, just to tone down the overwhelming nature of what you can see. Path of Exile might be free to play, but the price of entry is much higher than most in the hurdles you need to overcome or ignore before you can start seeing why it's worth playing. Because honestly, I've played over 15 hours now, and opening the skill tree just makes my brain go blah, 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 blah. I know the game is successful and there's loads of helpful information out there, but these are just a few thoughts from a new player, and nobody even cares, not even me. See ya!